doing an update. Yeah, so I got a hat and all that good stuff. I kind of look like hell because I had my ablation done today. And I wanted to update to just kind of let you know how all of that went. I was pretty nervous about it last night. I only slept about 5 hours. I spent most of my night last night watching YouTube videos about other people's experiences, which honestly helped me a lot because everyone was saying it's not that big of a deal. You'll look back and be like, I can't believe I was so scared. And so really they were right. I mean, that was the experience that I had. I'm not going to be like, "Oh, yeah, it was a total cakewalk," because I did this without sedatives. That was my personal choice. I did not have to do that. And the reason that I decided to go the route of no sedatives was just because I've tried different medications in my life for various things, and it seems like I'm always sensitive to everything. And so I just, dosages mainly, where they'll be like, "Oh, this is the dose you need," and it'll be like way too much. Just my body, I don't know if it just doesn't metabolize things right, but I didn't want to deal with it. I did not want to deal with sedatives and drugs and things. And so I had seen that other people had had this done without sedatives and painkillers and things like that, and said that it was totally manageable. So I'm like, if they can do it, I can do it. And I've been through stuff in my life that I've had to learn to kind of self-soothe, and I did hypnosis when I was pregnant the first time to kind of try to do childbirth like that. And so I'd learned some of the techniques and everything from that. And I'm able to, I'm a person who gets anxiety attacks and stuff, so I've had to learn ways to calm down and kind of tell myself, this is just your mind and it's freaking out. And so I don't know if I should be tooting my own horn, but I think I'm pretty good at the mind over matter stuff. I know that when my mind kind of freaks out, I kind of know how to pull it back a little bit as long as I understand what is going on. And so before I went into this procedure, I had a long talk with the doctor. I did all of this research on YouTube and everything else. So I felt pretty confident that I could do it without sedatives. So, I mean, if you decide to have an ablation done, mine was for AVNRT, which I guess is one of the most common arrhythmias, where your heart will just take off speeding after, it'll flutter a little bit and then just take off. And that's the one that I had, and mine would get up to about 180 beats a minute, just like sitting down. So yeah, I had that diagnosed in the hospital. I went to the ER a few years back, and it became a December thing where I would go to the ER every December having one of these episodes. So they might have been triggered by some stress and winter, and I don't know. But when I was in there, they were able to catch it on the monitors. I had a cardiologist and the electrophysiologist were saying that it's AVNRT and that it's treatable and that I should get an ablation. So that's kind of why I had to go do this today, which, yeah, I mean, if you're in this boat, you kind of know, you know the drill. I mean, I've had this since I was like 13. They used to tell me it was anxiety and all this other stuff. I don't even know if they did ablations back then. So I spent basically up until about 6 or 7 years ago just thinking, okay, my heart does this funny thing, but I don't know why, and I'll probably never be able to do anything about it. So I was pretty surprised when I went in, they said it's that. They said you can get an ablation and you can be cured. And I just put it off for quite a few years because I only got it every once a year, maybe twice a year. I figured, well, I don't get it that much. I can usually get myself out of it. But as the years went by, it was like once a year for a few years I'd have to go to the hospital because I couldn't get myself out of it. that, you know, made me start to think about maybe doing an ablation, but I still hadn't made up my mind. And then this past year I went, um, I actually went through all of December without having an episode, so I was super stoked about that. And then first week of January I had one while I was driving, and I got a little bit lightheaded when it started, and I was on my way to a wedding that I was second shooting for another photographer, and this was like my biggest fear, is this cannot happen when I'm trying to do my job and make an income, and when I'm driving I don't want anything terrible to happen if I were to pass out. Like, you just never know. I've never passed out from this, but they say as you get older you can be less tolerant to it, even though I guess it's still not considered life-threatening. So I decided after that episode in January to just go ahead and have a chat with the electrophysiologist, and I went to go see a guy at the Heart Center in Grand Rapids. I think it's part of Spectrum because that's where I had the surgery, is Dr. Wolfel, and he was really nice. I went and I sat with him for about an hour just asking every question I could imagine, and he was just like, oh, yours is something that we could fix in like under an hour, like, it's, trust me. And I finally just said, okay, let's do this. And he said he could have got me within like 2 weeks, but I wanted to wait until enough time, I don't know, I just felt more comfortable waiting a month or so to kind of give myself time to kind of relax. I know most people would say just get it over with, but to me it helped to put it out a little further. And plus I happened to have a couple weeks in June where I didn't have any weddings booked, and I just thought, okay, this is like the perfect time to do it. I can recover and everything will just go better if I do it then. So yeah, anyway, I know my stories kind of jump all over the place, but when I went in today, I was there early. They got me right in, got me prepped and everything. I would say I was there at 7:30, and they were ready for me at like 9:30, and that's when the doctor came and talked to me. I kind of asked a bunch more questions again, told him I didn't want to do sedatives. I was afraid of those. We had a good discussion about that, and he said, you know what, people do it without sedatives. It does not hurt. It's more or less just emotions and nerves and things. That's the reason that people do that. And so I'm just like, I don't want to do that. And he said, you know, that was totally my choice, and that if I changed my mind in the middle, I could still get sedatives. And I said, okay, that's good. Then the nurse came in and she started pushing the sedatives and was almost, I don't know, offended when I did not want the sedatives, and because I guess she liked the effect that they have on people, and they probably are something that most people would choose, but I'm not most people. I mean, that's obvious. So I kind of told her the same thing I told the doctors. I said I don't want the sedatives. We talked about it, and she said, well, you know, the thing is they take a while to kick in, and you might hit a really intense point in the surgery, and you might really want them, but they don't kick in for 10 minutes. And I just said, no, I don't care. I didn't want that feeling of sedatives wearing off in the daytime where I'm groggy and all this other stuff. I don't like that feeling. I like to feel a little more in control, and I like to know what's going on. So I was pretty adamant, like, don't give me the sedatives. And so when we went in and they started prepping me, I could hear my heart on the monitor, and it was beating faster than normal, but not like an arrhythmia. It was just me being nervous. And they had me hooked up to all these little stickers on my chest. They put these pads on my chest and my back in case if my heart did stop, so they could shock it, which I know that can be pretty scary, but every time I've been to the ER,